You're one drill hole away from company transformation based on what happens at Blue Devil and Red Devil.
Like it or not, it's kind of a wildcat shot here, but there's a lot of science and technology put into this. And, from our geochemists to our geophysics guys, it's everyone's sort of favourite outside of the companies. There's a lot of other technical people who are watching this. And
how many carton bets have you got on for it?
Oh, look, we'll have one off there, but...
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
Righto, bag holders and stop loss owners, we're heading up to the Kimberley and we're talking copper. Hopefully a gutload of it. Ashwood, Techgen Metals, TG1, got it on screen here, trading at 2.6. What are we? 12 mil market cap today. Welcome to LEVRD, Ash.
Thanks, Matty. Thank you.
Mate, maiden drilling program coming up. Some very impressive copper rock chip samples above 50% up in the Kimberley. Mate, why aren't there some holes in this already?
Yeah, good question. The reason there's been no holes into this copper, I think the previous exploration has been to the east of the project, drilling for MB Mississippi Valley type mineralisation, lead and zinc. Those explorers did some basic work, I guess, geochem stream sediment sampling, etc., for copper and gold. But yeah, the focus was on the lead and zinc. So, and then I guess what changed the ball game when we picked the project up, it wasn't really much more to do geochemistry wise. There's obviously some beautiful expressions there of copper, gold, sort of silver, and all these gossans in there, and there's numerous zones there. So in one of the surrender reports from the past explorers, a recommendation was, the next stage here is geophysics, and they were looking for a larger company to do it. We picked it up. We're not a larger company, but we're a big fan of geophysics, especially in these terrains, and it was the missing piece of the puzzle. We were very fortunate to fly a new type of survey at the time, and we sort of, uncovered the Blue Devil target. The Red Devil came later on, but I'll speak about that more.
Yeah, I'll bring it up on screen. So we're in WA, but only just pretty much. We're up in the Halls Creek territory, like just west of the NT border, and you've obviously got other projects near Dalgaranga and stuff we'll talk about later. But Blue Devil, Red Devil, and like when you look at these numbers, and we can go through the geophys, like rock chips of 52% copper and 5 gram gold. Mate, can that be deceiving when you see those types of numbers? How do you interpret that? But I suppose it's the best start you can get when you're trying to find a copper lode.
Yeah, there's a few ways to look at it, but it is, when you are chasing these deposits like we are, we think the model looks like a skarn, so you do and can get these high-grade zones within those type of deposits. But generally, when you hit your sulfide zones, it's, you're looking at 0.5% to 2% in the sulfide zone, but then you get your enrichment. But what we are seeing at surface in these cross-cutting, structures and in some major structures as well, you've got these gossans, but it is the supergene enrichment, so it is, it's nicely enriched over millions of years of the water table going up and down, and it is the first place geos will go looking for these types of mineralisation, and then you sort of hone in from those, and that's what we've done. They were mapped previously. We've mapped some new ones, which we've put out just recently at the Red Devil. They are the Red Devil and the Blue Devil on the same tenement. They're probably about 2.5, 3 kilometres apart. The exciting thing about the Blue Devil target, that was picked up by the inaugural airborne EM survey we did. And then the Red Devil, you can see that little red circle on the map there. Airborne EM didn't see that, so the reason that we picked it up with IP was just that the nature of those cross-cutting structures there, and the amount of gossans that were across them. And every time we went out there, we just found new ones. So We happened to have an IP crew at the time in a different project in the Ashburton, and when they finished that survey, we took them up and just did basically a trial survey over that one particular structure, and that's how we found the Red Devil. So the Red Devil was picked up by IP. IP picks up disseminated sulfides where they're airborne. Traditionally will pick up conductive massive sulfides, or anything that's conductive. And there's other false conductors out there, so not under any illusion that it is a copper ore body. We hope it is, but there's other things that can trip us up. But the positive are we haven't seen those at surface. So
yeah. Yeah, and so this is all airborne. There's obviously no holes here. It's all airborne, and it's detecting a conductor about 200 metres or so below the surface. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Matty. So that was, as I mentioned, it was the first ever airborne survey done, and we found that the Blue Devil target, it is about 200 metres from the surface. What drew us in there, I guess, was some of the historic geochem, but also there was a very subtle feature in the government broad space data. And as we flew the airborne EM, it was in, we fly magnetics at the same time. And hence when we're modelling the EM, you can also model the magnetics below it. So I've got Diggers and Dealers coming up next week, so we'll have a booth there, I think booth number 21 in the forecourt. But we'll have a 3D model running there of that video, and it just on a screen there, and it just completely changes the 2D visual effect of that. As it rotates, you can see all the geochemistry sort of lining up, and it's pretty special. So that'll come out next week, and that'll also be on our website, but that's just been put together at the moment. But the 3D video completely changes the visuals, but still don't know what it is, but it is impressive in itself.
Are they you're going to have that 52.3% copper rock chip on the table with you? That usually gets some attention at Diggers.
Yeah, it does.
It's usually a big rock chip competition there.
Well, we've got a big one there. We are bringing it up, but it's from a different project. But we'll have some Red Devil rock chips as well. So, yeah.
Mate, the maiden drill program, which is, I guess, yet to be finalised when that is happening, but you're chucking 2 diamond holes in to test it. What's given you the confidence of where you got? We're having 2, let's not call them Hail Marys, but 2 to go. What is giving you the confidence those 2 are going to give you the best chance of finding something in that spot they're going?
Yeah, being geophysics and being airborne geophysics, so it is a massive conductive target. And I guess the targets, is planned by a combination of our geophysics guys, because it is a geophysics model combined with our geos, to give us the best chance of hitting the highest conductive zone of that body. So being, a copper ore body that we're looking for, visually we'll have a pretty good idea when we get into it, what is causing that conductor. Quite often it could be just pyrite and pyrrhotite iron sulfides. It's causing these conductors. And if that's the case, then we'll be relying on, which is a good thing, I guess, as well, that, generally you get gold and silver associated with those elements. But I guess the primary target is copper, and visually we'll get a pretty good idea.
Is that so? You mentioned you're sort of chasing a skarn. Could it end up being a porphyry, an IOCG, a skarn? Is it everything on the table at the moment?
Well, there's a few of those intrusive. They're all intrusive types of deposits you mentioned, and I guess it was our geochemist, independent geochemist, that came out with those different models. It could be. Because I guess the geochemistry is suggesting it's not pinpointing a particular, it's ruling a few out, and the ones it's not ruling out are those ones you mentioned, IOCG, your skarns and your porphyries. But the reason I'm leaning towards a porphyry system, if it is mineralised, is just that with your porphyries, it's the magnetic, it's actually the host source that's carrying the mineralisation, and generally pretty low grade on average. But skarns is when the mineralisation has sweated out and separated from that intrusive body, which we're seeing about a 200 metre roughly plus separation between the magnetics and the geophysics. So it just fits that model. Whether it is or not, drilling will tell us. But
the what do they call it? The lie detector. The lie detector's about to go in. What's examples of some well-known skarn deposits for copper in Australia, around the world?
In Australia, there's a few in Queensland. They're not big, the ones in Australia. I guess the biggest one closest to us would be, I think it's the OK Teddy in New Guinea. I guess once upon a time when the continents were all connected, you could probably draw a long bow and say it's relatively close, but that is a world-class ore body. A little bit of history there with I think it was BHP in the day, but it's now mined by PNG government with a fair share in it. But I guess that's the biggest one and the closest one to this particular project. I guess the Geoscience Australia and Western Australia mapped that part of the Kimberley that we're in as having a high potential chance just through their surveys and studies of being an IOCG type part of the world. But there is no ICG targets yet in the Kimberley. Look, a smaller chance it could be that, and only drilling will tell. The magnetic signature is relatively weak, which doesn't detract from the ore body itself, if it is one, but it is an intrusion, and that target that we're targeting is the EM portion of it above the mag feature.
So with that, your location, like what's some of the is like Newmont's Tanami near you? Like how close? Like what's some sort of big deposits around where you are?
If you go to the Tanami, you've got to go further east, but I guess by the crow flies, that they are relatively close in Australia terms. The closest deposits to us, Savannah Nickel Mine, Coonji Park, and there's one more on the list there, but they're all basically magmatic type deposits and or VMS. So we're in a sediment system. They're pretty different, and we're not looking at when we first picked the project up and flew the survey, we kind of did hope for a VMS system, but I think this type of geophysics that we're seeing matched up with the geology, it's highly unlikely to be a VMS system. But that's what it is in the belt. I think there's the Bommy project of Kazali's got it. It's to the southwest of us, about 60, 70 kilometres. That's about 100 million tonnes at the moment, at about 0.3, 0.4 in sections. But that is a big ore body, that one. So that's probably similar to what we're looking at. That's a porphyry. Yep. So I guess this is sort of something similar, but with a skarn flavour to it.
Where'd you get the project from, actually? How'd it come into the portfolio?
Look, it's one of those ones that we sort of organically grew internally. It was we've pegged it ourselves. So
yeah, right.
Historically, Seabird had it for a long time, and they're the guys who did the MPT type exploration, and Spartan Exploration had it. Look for a bigger partner. There's IGO in our part of the world exploring. Probably about just over 2 years ago we pegged it. It became vacant, and that's when we went through all the historic reports and went, this is a pretty decent looking project.
You could have picked a cheaper
and the
place.
Market, the gold market.
Yeah, you could have picked a cheaper place to fly up and peg a tenement.
Yeah, you could have, but look, we're having a lot of success there early, so happy days.
That's good. You've got to go look at WA1, for instance. You've got to go to bloody where no one else wants to spend the money to go. That's why you might get the best luck. I guess waiting on a drill rig at the moment. Where's, I guess, like the POW, like heritage clearing, like is everything drill ready at the moment, pending a drill rig to start punching holes?
Everything's ready, mate. Everything's ready. We're basically shaping it fit to go. So we actually hope to be drilling this month, but with all the delays and then our rig's saying the next couple of weeks' time, and then we get told that the rig's not being released, so then we're going to go around looking for a new one. So we're ready to go. Yep.
Yeah. So if we can find a bloody driller from down Perth, Kalgoorlie way that wants to drive up to the Kimberley, she's good to go. Just a cheap transport rate.
She is, mate. Is
that a limitation when you're up there, like trying to get your top drills, your Hagstroms and all that? It's like, you have to pay extra for the local ones down here to get them up to the Kimberley to transport their gear. You got to find local ones instead.
We try and get the local ones for sure, because obviously the mobilisation cost from the goldfields is, it can be astronomical. WA being such a big state, so it's like driving from Victoria up to Queensland equivalent. But I might have mentioned earlier that we narrowed it down to 1 or 2 rigs. I think we've got one coming into the Kimberley in the next week or two, and look, this news will come out in the next week, I guess, when we sign a contract, but I'm pretty confident we've got one. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically within the next fortnight you've secured a drill rig. Have you got a conceptual timeline on when you'll start drilling, assay turnaround, considering you're up in the Kimberley? Like, where do you send the assays to? Everyone just wants to know, when is the first assay potentially coming out?
Yeah, well, my conversations this morning with the drilling company, it looks like mid-August we'll have rigs spinning.
Yep.
And or mobilising. So being diamond drilling, you're sort of doing 30 to 40 metres a shift. So there's a few weeks, sort of 10 days roughly per hole. Like each hole is going to be around 400 to 500 metres. And then at the end of each hole, it just gets transported through to Perth to be cut, measured, and then assayed. And then, the assay times, it's not quick. And as we learnt from our last program, it's just the market's been flooded with rigs, and so the labs have been flooded with samples. Everyone's chasing copper gold. The gold market's done a wonderful thing for our industry at the moment. It clearly is fluctuating, but the labs are full. So I think if visuals are really good, we can pay extra, but it does cost us juniors, anyone, a lot to get a rush. If it's great, we'll certainly get a rush, but generally you're looking at sort of 6 to 8 weeks turnaround from once they hit the lab.
I suppose, you rush them through if the war's over anyway. If the war's still on and the market's crap, you may as well drag it out a bit longer.
I guess, speaking of the war, it's added the fuel costs and drill bits and, those Techgen Metals, they're just, the prices have gone up, drill bits have doubled, everything's doubled. It's been a bit harsh on us.
Yeah.
As a junior, but I didn't mention, but we do have co-funding for this, the calibration funding with the WA government. So the Blue Devil hole is a co-funded hole. So
how much you get from EIS for that?
170 grand.
Yeah.
Roughly, and then there is assistance for in that part of the world for MOB as well. So we certainly be utilising those, which certainly helps us with these remote sort of programs. We're only, you sort of talking about the run, those remote places earlier. I guess by the crow flies, we're only 45 k's from Halls Creek, and it's about 350 k's south of Kununurra. So from the Great Northern Highway, we're literally 70 k's by the crow flies to that. So
not as remote as we made out.
No.
That tenure you've got, like 195 square k's. How much have you actually walked in terms of looking for other targets beyond this? I know this is sort of first cab off the rank, but how much other potential's on there on that land holding? It's pretty decent size.
Yeah, so the exciting thing, finding that the Red Devil target with the IP survey, so how many of those across the project? Look, potentially many. So to the north of that, there's a lot more copper rock chips, and some of those go all the way up to sort of 40, 50% as well. So that's where you got your little cursor there, Matt. There's some other structures in there and around those copper zones. That's a fair way north of Big EM target, but the structures do feed that way. And later next week when we have our 3D model out and people look at it, it's pretty impressive to see this mineralisation. And we know, from walking the ground that these structures do outcrop. So, hopefully there's some good conduits, and that's the reason that I guess we're seeing that supergene enrichment there and not further south. It's obviously deeper. And we certainly know that those structures are buried. And some of those actually you can't see at surface, you just see them in the geophysics data.
Yeah, cool, right. You've so you said
there's
you've
a lot more to cover.
Yeah, I can imagine. Will you do, before I get onto the balance sheet, once you do drill those holes, is there, I'll bring it back up, is there potential for like any in-hole surveys? Is that going to be more beneficial than the airborne stuff once you got, these 500-metre holes down?
Yeah, once you tag something, you certainly do downhole geophysics, and you pretty accurately or very accurately model them. So the airborne stuff is, the guys are pretty, the geophysics guys are pretty confident to model those plus or minus 10, 20 metres, or even narrower. But in-hole surveys or downhole surveys, they get, that pinpoints it to the millimetre.
Yeah.
And the two holes at the moment, Matt, one's into the Red Devil target, IP, and one's into the Blue Devil. And I guess being geophysics, when we're drilling, we'll have a pretty good idea of what it is. And if we hit the mineralisation we're looking for, there is scope to do additional holes. We didn't get a huge amount of clearances before us, and because of that part of the world, it's hard to access. And I guess we just didn't put the cart before the horse. So, and if it's great, well, then we come back. We obviously got wet seasons up there as well. So, I guess we'll drill what we can, and during the wet season, we'll come back and do a heck of a load more surveys, environment surveys and heritage surveys, and get it ready for the next drilling campaign in the next drill season. So,
yep.
We certainly got enough in front of us to kick on, but there'll certainly be a lot of work to do. And we do, obviously, that it's very seasonal driven up there.
The cap raise you've done earlier, so 2.7 million you raised, 1.6 cents. So she's up about 50% since then. You've got the oppies as well. So it was two tranches. So there was 1 for 2 option. So where are they? Exercised at 3 point. The pressure's on for me to find it, and I always bugger it up. 3.6 cents.
Yeah.
So there's, I guess, so how much would that bring in the door, exercising all the 1 for 2 oppies in future if they did all become in the money?
Yeah, we did the same option for the last race. So there's a couple of $1 million to come in if and when the options are in the money, they get exercised. But
yep.
The second tranche, I think you asked earlier. So that's tranche 2, the EGM is the date for that is the 12th of August.
Okay, so they're settling 12th of August. Yep, too easy. Now, strategy-wise, so I think pro forma you're going to have about 3.7 million after tranche 2 settles. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yep.
Yeah. So looking at, I guess, you got Blue Devil, Red Devil, but this is, sort of get into other projects now. Like you've got El Donna, you've got your Dalgaranga project. You've also got John Bull, that's New South Wales, and there was what was the other one? Mount Bagola. So between all that and I guess the money you've got, and you've got talking about multiple campaigns, how's the funds going to be sort of allocated to numerous projects? Like I'm assuming Blue Devil and Red Devil are probably the most prospective at the moment.
Yeah, and there's obviously some other projects I mentioned that's already got some, fantastic mineralisation known them and some great drill hits, and I'll talk to those in a bit. Obviously, the Red and Blue Devils, they're the tier 1 targets we're chasing. That Blue Devil, it's massive. It's a big target, and there's a lot of eyes on it across the industry. So, hence, we're pretty excited to be drilling that one. And I guess in the very short term, everything revolves around that drilling program. What's there and what's not there. So. And post that drilling campaign, obviously Dalgaranga would probably be second on our pecking order. And you did mention offline there that it's not granted. That is it is obviously an application, but it's in advertisement stage at the moment, and we believe that'll be granted in October, November. So, given the historic sort of work that was done there, BHP put a trial pit in there in the sort of mid-1980s. I think they took out 107 tonnes at 2.5 grams. So it wasn't astronomical in size by any stretch of the imagination. What we love about that is it is right next to it on the same Kabar shear as Dalgaranga. It's just never been drilled. So we've taken a plethora of rock samples across it, and there's some pretty impressive numbers coming out of it. And I guess just the in-pit and the stockpile samples that we've taken, we're certainly getting, the average is probably around 5.5 grams, not the 2.5 that BHP got in the 80s. And back then they were looking for oxide deposits, and this is pretty well straight into fresh rock. So that's why they, in their surrender reports from back in those days, and that's why they didn't just go and, I guess, turn it into a much larger pit. It was just too hard at the time.
2.5 grams is ripping these days, mate, in an open pit.
It is pretty good.
Yeah. So, once you do, if that does, so is that, you're saying the exploration license is still yet to be granted for that tenement, but it's in review stage?
Yeah, that's right. And it's flagged to be granted towards the end of the year. And so really hoping to get it drilled November, December.
Yeah.
Failing, that'll obviously be early next year, but that's certainly, and that's drilled ready. Like, we've done geochemistry across it. We've mapped the structures. We've added, new targets along strike from it. The beauty of that, from the mill at Dalgaranga, we're 12 Ks by the crow flies. So that was another thing in the BHP report. It was, the ore was too far to truck to Mount Magnet at the time. Yeah. And I think it was like 50, 60 Ks away. So, yeah, it's nice and close.
So how much of the information that was put into drilling out Never and all the other associated deposits by Spartan, as another company, like, if that's on the same shear zone, is there learnings to take from the public information that they've provided on how these ore bodies might behave if they are there?
Yeah, for sure. Look, Andrea is a executive director at the company's head, and also had chief geo, loves these ore bodies and models up what they're doing over there. And we certainly look at, the style of, the geology that we've got, what they've got. So, yeah, you can always take learnings from the neighbours. The fact that we're sitting on the same structures is probably the key takeaway. But, there's no two ore bodies the same. So we need to drill it.
Yeah. What about Mount Bagola, mate? So that's like copper, gold, silver, lead in the Ashburton. Where's that? Oh, I guess what's next up off the rank after Dalgaranga? Be a better question.
Well, Blue Devil's first, and Dalgaranga would ideally be second. So between, we don't probably like 5 to 6 months between those. But after Blue Devil drilling, if things didn't go to plan, we're trying to get permits, and we got permits submitted for John Bull in New South Wales, and renegotiating the access there. So providing we get those two boxes ticked, there's a good chance that may be drilled later this year. And given that we've already drilled it twice, the next program will give us our first look at a exploration JORC target. So on the back of them, it's interesting. There's some pretty fat intersections there, and some grade coming through. And that could be drilled next, but that's obviously New South Wales, and just waiting on permits and access on that one. So,
is that so? New England origin, is that sort of near Hillgrove, that sort of Lachlan Fold Belt area?
Yeah, it kind of is. So Hillgrove is probably the closest. Not quite producing. If it's not producing, it's certainly being built. But yeah, Hillgrove is probably about 250 k's to the north of it. So that would be the closest.
Yeah. Okay. So where is it? Because I'm from Inverell, so I'm not too far from there. So is this out near Barraba Way or
Grafton? So it's west of Grafton.
Yeah.
50, 60 k's west of Grafton. So
yeah. Beautiful. Grafton Inverell, one of the greatest cycle races in the country. There you go. Too easy, mate. Well, it sounds like, I guess to sum it up, could be potentially you're one drill hole away from company transformation based on what happens at Blue Devil and Red Devil. Well, I think it's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, look, it's we mentioned before, again, off there, but it's certainly the best target that we brought to market in 20 years. We've been listed 5, and it's certainly we're calling it our flagship exploration target. There's other projects there that are a little bit more, or a lot more advanced, and this is a, like it or not, it's kind of a wildcat shot here, but there's a lot of science and technology put into this, and from our geochemists to our geophysics guys, it's everyone's sort of favourite outside of the companies. There's a lot of other technical people who are watching this, and Yeah, fingers crossed. Geochemistry sort of and the geophysics all point to this one spot, but Mother Nature's tripped us up before, and yeah, we certainly been stung. But it's impressive.
Have you? How many carton bets have you got on for it? Any? Or not that good? Not confident enough?
Look, we'll have one off air, but
I'll see which side I'm going to take first. No, awesome, Vash. Thanks so much for that, mate. That was real informative. It's and good to chat about this stuff early, because I could look like a genius of bringing it 2 months before you hit something, if that happens.
Well, let's hope so, mate. Yeah, look. Fingers crossed. I'm sure we'll be in touch if and when it goes well.
Awesome, mate. No, thanks, Ape, for coming on LEVRD, and best of luck. Is that all we can say?
Legend. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.